going on, Cowboys Nation? Thank you guys so much for joining us on this wonderful Wednesday evening. As you guys know, it's your girls. Cravin Cowboys in the building. As always, I got my girl, StarGazer Sports in the building. How you doing tonight, sis?
What's up? What's up, everybody? I appreciate y'all being here with us for another episode of StarChasers Girls Talk Ball. Y'all know it's always exciting when me and Mickey get together. I love doing this show. It's one of my highlights of my week, and I hate when I have to miss it because of work and doing other stuff. But really appreciate everybody rocking with us and supporting us. What's up, Angie, Hoodie Kush, Dak Owns? I know more people are coming in, but I really appreciate you. Also, I got to give a shout out to my guy, JV. I think his name's JV B-Boy. His name's Julius, but he just goes by JV. I
Yes.
really appreciate JV. He always just randomly sends me cash apps during the week.
Yes,
So I really
talk about blessings on a Sunday.
I
Definitely
really
shout out to
appreciate
JB.
that, JB, because you gave me enough money so that I could get a new profile picture. So I really appreciate you helping me out and appreciate everybody who donates to my Cash App. But y'all know when y'all come in here, please like the video, please share, and also please subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is StarGazer Sports, as well as Mickey's channel, which is Cravin without the G, Cravin Cowboys. So really excited to get into the content today.
Yes, facts. Like Star said, make sure you guys hit the like, hit the share, hit subscribe. Just like Star said, I definitely agree with her. This is definitely one of the highlights of my week as well. Especially, I was just telling her right before we hopped on, it's kind of like we're right back in the swing. I know it's, still off season, technically, but the news rolling out, player interviews, coach. Shotty had another press conference today. Even every now and then hearing from Stephen Jones, and even hearing good news, from Stephen Jones and how he's feeling with how the Cowboys are kind of operating. With him kind of being, part of the power behind that is honestly, it's kind of putting if you guys will, kind of a battery in the back, at least for me, as far as my fandom, and because I know a lot of Cowboys Nation, myself included, were kind of out of it, kind of down bad on this team, kind of coming into the season, and I know it's still off season. I know we still haven't, at least in my opinion, I'm sure some other opinions, haven't fully, as far as the Cowboys haven't fully, in my opinion, I really just kind of really powered up the roster as far as the defensive tackle. I think still need a nose tech. Some people still have questions about the running back room. I just really all together, everything hasn't really gotten rid of all the problems, quote unquote, that the Cowboys have. But I do like the way that they're moving, the steps that they're taking to improve this team. And what's your thoughts on Stephen Jones and really the front office, how they kind of really molded and kind of gelled really well with what Schottenheimer's trying to do.
Yeah, I think that from the beginning of the off season, I think the first time that they really spoke after the shoddy presser was at the Senior Bowl, and I remember Steven and Will McClay, both talking about alignment, how they felt like they were aligned, and how they really liked how Shoddy was very clear on what he wanted, and Shoddy was a person that's going to over tell you, going to over explain because he wants it to be clear. And I feel like, from what we've seen so far, Shoddy, again, we don't know what this team is going to look like come September. I know there's speculation that, yeah, he's Jason Garrett 2.0, and, Jason Garrett said that there will be a culture change too, and look how that turned out and stuff like that. And I feel like my rebuttal to that is, number one, these teams are better. This team, I will say this team, right, is better than the last couple of teams that Jason Garrett had. Now, of course, I know Jason Garrett had some good teams, but I'm saying, even in the 2014 year, in the 2016 year, we had a good offense, right? And our whole team was offense dependent. We're going to run the ball. We're going to do ball control. But what we did not have in those years was a defense. We did not have that in those years. And I feel like this year we actually have a defense. Now, whether it all comes together, that's on the coaches. But I do know from talent-wise, we do have a defense. There isn't one more piece that I feel like we need, which is one tech. Hashtag respect one tech. That's the hashtag that we're pushing so that more so that we can get one more DT nose tech specifically behind Mozzie, because there is going to be a rotation. And right now we only either have rookies or second year players who have barely played any had any snaps in an actual NFL game, and that's Denzel Jackson and Justin Rogers. And Denzel Jackson is a three tech, so pretty much Justin Rogers. You know what I'm saying? So we need to get something to solidify that position.
Yeah, who
But
left
I
actually.
think
So not like he had a full training campaign with the Cowboys. He had ended up leaving and then coming back. So it's sometimes you kind of
exactly,
take maybe sometimes he had a background with the Cowboys. He didn't even have an he didn't even really have an off season or really an in season with the Cowboys. So he still has to get caught up with the scheme and with another defensive coordinator as well.
exactly. So, we don't have that experienced vet behind Mozzie. And we know that Mozzie, this is his year to be the guy, right? It's year 23, 24, 25. Yes, this is year 3 for Mozzie. So this is the year that most DTs break out. So we should be able to, count on Mozzie. I'm not saying that we can't count on him, but again, it's going to be a rotation. And you don't want to be in complete, knock on wood. But if something happens to Mozzie, he's got just a couple games, then you're down to relying on Justin Rogers and Jay Toia. And I like Justin Rogers and I like Jay Toia, but I don't think that they're enough behind Mozzie. I don't. They don't haven't given me anything to trust that they can be great in the NFL. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, or at least just good and serviceable. So I'd have to see that with my own two eyes before saying that. But getting back to, I really do think that Shotty has done his best at implementing his vision. I think that, from his presser, he said that he's a people person and that's his strong suit, right? He said building relationships is his strong suit. And I feel like we are seeing that when we're listening to the player interviews, when we're listening to Shotty's pressers. He's saying he's going on individual dinners weekly with players
Yeah.
and not just, the players like Dak or Micah, but he's going on dinners with everybody on this roster. And I feel like he is doing his best to try to get close to these guys. He's doing his best to build competition, and to make the environment competitive. There was a thing, they talked about how he moved in the ping pong table
Right. Mm-hmm.
into the locker room, which used to be in the players' lounge, but they moved it into the locker room because he's like every day he wants to foster this competitive nature, this culture. And he
Yeah.
spoke about in his presser, he's like, who makes Dak better? Joe Milton. Who makes CD better? George Pickens. Like, he wants these players to be pushed. And this is football, so it is a competitive sport. And I think that everybody in here, needs to earn. Of course, there are staple pieces like CD, like Micah, like that. Where it's like, unless they're hurt, they're playing. But even so, you still bring in guys to push them, right? You still bring in guys to push them. We got Micah. We brought in Dante Fowler, who was a 10 sack guy in NFL. We brought in Easy. He likes to go by Easy.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
It's right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Ezaraku, but he wants to go by Easy. But we got Easy, or Easy E, or whatever you want to go by. So we got him to come here, who had 16 and a half sacks and 21 tackles for loss and 60 pressures or 61 pressures in college. So we're trying to push everybody to be better, because when you just have a bunch of nothing behind you,
Yeah.
you don't really have to push and execute, because I'm light years better than them. But when you have somebody behind you that is actually also, good, also has talent, not saying they're on your level, but also again has talent and is good and is somebody that can develop, then it's gonna push you to be better. It's gonna push you to make sure that you're not opening up the door, the window for people to say, should we really be playing you or should we be playing you? So I
Right.
do feel like the organization, and I'm hoping from what we've seen so far, it looks like the front office is allowing Shotty to have his way. That's what it looks like. What does it look like to you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, sis. I mean, I'm glad you brought those points because I even heard a story today. I think I was listening to Cowboys break, and actually, it was a great point brought up by Ambar Garcia. And actually, speaking of Schottenheimer going out to dinner with players and things like that, being close with coaches as well, she actually brought up a story where she said when he was first hired. That Shotty actually bought Whataburger breakfast for not just the players or maybe even the coaches, but
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah, if you will, the if you guys will, the admin side, the guy, kind of the people who are kind of behind the scenes, the stat department, the people who do the radio shows over there at the Star, people like that who maybe we may not see on an everyday basis, getting close with those guys, you know what I mean? Sometimes, not saying we kind of downplay that side, but we don't actually, we don't always know what's going on, behind the scenes, what they actually, we know the staff department kind of, McCarthy, I think, in my opinion, kind of tried to elevate that department because I think that kind of pushed a lot of things he did as far as scheme wise. They gave him percentages as far as effectiveness of plays and what other teams brought when they, as far as opponents. But I think Schottenheimer is kind of going the extra mile with actually kind of, trying to link with these people and build those relationships. And I think, and also to your point, Star, about putting his players in a competitive environment, not just football wise, but he actually spoke about, playing different things. They're kind of looking, he said, kind of looking out in the world, what's going on. He talked about the Dallas Stars, winning the championship. I believe it was. I'm not a hockey, person, so I don't, hopefully I'm getting
Yeah,
that right.
they're in the finals. They're in their conference finals right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. But you say you look at things like that. They just did something for the PGA tour. A couple weeks ago. We saw those guys outside on the golf course. So just kind of tying into real world things. And he talked about playing basketball with the players. That's something we don't really
Right,
hear about every day. So
right.
doing football things, but he talked about putting guys in kind of different activities, different environments, but also still having that competitive base to it. So actually, you're growing closer to your teammates, but you're also still kind of trying to compete, but also making those players uncomfortable, right? He even, not that he's pointing anybody out in a bad way, but yeah, talking about Osa, talking about playing basketball with Pickens, doing free throws and things like that, kind of expanding their repertoire, right? These guys may not be great at basketball, they may not be great at golf, you know what I'm saying? But you put those guys in those environments, they may not have even touched. I mean, even the home run, the home run. I think the home run event these guys do every year. So even
Hmm.
year after year, players come out and say, "Hey, I'm not the greatest at this." You know what I'm saying? But I decided to come out, be with my teammates, kind of build that
Right.
camaraderie. And I think that's, that kind of starts now. I know we be talking about culture and, I know there's been kind of speculation about does culture matter? Is that really important? Does it come down to winning? Things like that. But some of those things take place now. I mean, it's only May, right? And these guys can't play I mean, these guys can't play football, right? I mean, even early in the off,
Right.
they talk
Right.
about they can't even talk about football at some points of the year, right? So these
Yeah.
guys have to find a way. That's
To
really the hard.
connect.
Exactly. That's really can really, if you guys look at it, that can be the tough part about being a coach, right? Schottenheimer said these guys do football all day. So what can I do as a coach to put these guys in different environments, like what they're not used to, but also still getting the best out of these players? So I think it's important to find different ways to connect to your player. I just love that he's doing. He is really just doing a variety of things, physically and mentally. You know what I'm saying? Getting inside these guys' minds, seeing how they learn, how they get along with teammates, making them, if you will, uncomfortable. And not saying they're uncomfortable with their teammates, but getting to get to know players that they don't really know, that they don't speak to every day. So I think that just really expands these guys, comfort zones. And I think that can, even Schottenheimer mentioned that can really, bring a lot to the team late in the season. It may not quote unquote matter now because it's off season. We haven't seen anything yet, but he mentioned when you get in those late games in the season, those November games and the December games, when you look to the person to your left or your right, and we saw that under McCarthy sometimes, right? We kind of felt, or we maybe as fans, maybe we thought, but now we're kind of seeing that maybe both sides of the team were kind of divided, right? There were times where late in the season you didn't really see that rallying, you didn't see that. Okay, let's buckle down, let's get together. Maybe we see it from our leaders. And sometimes you want to see you see the leaders kind of join the whole team together, not just okay. Let me grab my friend over here. Let me grab my teammate over here who I'm with all the time. No, let's gather everybody together and see if we can get everybody on the same page. And I love that Schottenheimer is starting that now. Like everyone's realizing that this starts now in the off season. CD himself said 2025 season starts now. So I just really think it's important for these players, coaches alike, front office, on the admin side as well. Everyone's going to be this organization is just really taking a 180, and I think it's all started with Schottenheimer.
I agree with that, sis, and I'm gonna give you some claps because I think you definitely broke that down, and how there's Shotty has emphasized he was like, we don't when we go out together, like we don't talk about football, like
Yeah.
because it's about building connections beyond football. It's about, we know you're good at football, but how about try this? Try to get better at this. Try to expand. Like he had the guys on the golf course and they're playing basketball and
Mhm.
they're doing these different things. And he had, for the schedule reveal, they're doing all these different activities and stuff like that because I think it brings out the best in you. You know what I'm saying? When you're competing with your brothers, even if it's just in a fun, competitive way, it's he's trying to instill in his team exactly what he said: compete every day.
Mhm.
Compete every day. Every day you're competing, and it's one word that I keep hearing as well is energy, 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 energy. Like I've heard it from Steven, heard it from Will McClay, heard it from the coaches, heard it from the players, is that that's what Shotty brings. He brings energy every day. He's gonna bring the energy. He's gonna bring that to where he's like, let's go 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Let's get done what we need to get done. And let's do it to a high level degree. And even I was listening to Dak's interview yesterday, and he was saying how even in practice, like he's getting on to the coaches. Like if he feels like the coaches are too docile or they not got enough,
Right.
if they not doing enough, he called them out in front of all the players because it's like, I'm gonna call you out because that's what
Right.
it's about. It's about getting better. It's not about just, oh yeah, it's okay, they're a new coach or they just know. He's like, I've already taught y'all how I want this team ran, and so
Mhm.
you're gonna execute it. And I
Yep.
think he's gonna do that same thing with the players. And I even like how they asked him. I think there was a question. They were like, "Well, how integral is Dak to like building his culture and all of this stuff?" And he was like, And some people could take that as a slight, like
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't want to build the culture around Dak or something like that. But I didn't take it that way. The way I took it is that Dak is a piece of a puzzle, and he
Mhm.
said that he was like, Dak is a piece. He is a foundational piece for us, but Dak is not the team. And you see, that's the issue. And I feel like a lot of players, they have looked at Dak. Even Micah. I'm gonna get on you, Micah, and I love Micah to death. But I'm gonna talk about it how he put out there talking about, oh, it doesn't matter if we don't have run
Oh,
defense
that's
because
right.
our quarterback and our run game could just put up 30 points, and they were putting up 30 points our rookie year. What's up, Lou?
Hey,
Y'all
shout out
know,
to you.
shout out to Lou. Y'all know, please go subscribe to Lou if y'all haven't already. Lou has been killing it. He's just been putting out the best breakdowns. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't keep up with Lou, but y'all please go subscribe to Lou for sure. And him and Vach, shout out to Vach Lombardi, did the show yesterday or the day before yesterday. So y'all go check that out for sure. But um, yeah, I just think that I forgot I lost my train of thought. But what was I saying? Somebody, you remember what I was saying, sis?
I think about Shotty. Who was dang? Because I was on the right
Oh,
track.
Micah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Micah.
Micah coming out and talk about, we had all this, we had the number one offense my rookie year. And it's like, Micah, that sounds good, buddy. But quarterbacks don't win playoff games or Super Bowls. A team does. A team does. Again, a team does. So, regardless of how good Dak is and how good the offense is, that's great. But we also need the defense to be just as good, or if not better. If
Yeah.
not better. Because we've seen playoff games where Dak has played clean and we
Mhm.
should have won, but we lost because our defense sucks. So we've seen playoff games where maybe Dak has started off slow, right? But then he comes roaring back, but it's all for naught because our defense sucks.
Right.
So I don't like how Micah said that. So I'm gonna be transparent. I didn't like that he said that. I don't think that that's something that he should have said. And Micah has gotten in trouble. Sometimes he be saying stuff, and it's like, no, Micah, that's not the right mindset. Now we got to give him, grace because Micah is still growing, and he's been transparent about that. He's still growing, he's still developing as a leader, and I'm pretty sure people talk to him. He probably was like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that," but I think that we need to continue to work to build a complete team so that we can contend. Because until we build like you look at somebody like Jalen Hurts. This guy has won playoff games throwing for 150 yards,
Right.
no touchdowns. Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl. He had playoff games on that playoff run. He had playoff games, zero touchdowns.
Right. I think
Like,
we saw that. Well, I think it was what 2022 when we faced Jimmy G in the playoffs. I think he was the only quarterback in the playoffs that year who had, I think, what, one or zero touchdowns.
yeah, one or zero touchdowns. Went
Right.
straight to the Super Bowl. So
Right.
we need a defense. We
Yeah.
need, and Dak can do more than both of them quarterbacks. So it's not like, but it's better when you have a great defense that can strangle the life out of you. You know what I'm saying? Because it just makes it easier on everybody. It doesn't put this pressure to press because as soon as we step on the field, we already down seven. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we
Facts.
need a defense that can get stops. And when you look at the playoffs, defenses are getting stops. They're getting stops and turnovers. And that's one thing that we have not done in years is get stops or turnovers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think in our last 3 to 4 playoff games, we maybe have one, two turnovers. You look at somebody like the Commanders, they took down the number one seed.
Right.
How? They caused 5 turnovers. Like, at some point, we need our defense to truly, truly step up and be that playoff championship caliber defense because we're not going to get anywhere until our defense performs
Yeah.
how we know they should perform. Now, in years past, we didn't necessarily have all the pieces, but I think this year, if we add a one tech, we should have all the pieces to where we can have a defense that should be able to get stops and turnovers in key moments. And what's up to you, Stephen White? Glad to see you.
Yes, facts. And I like that you brought up earlier talking about I know we talked about Micah earlier, but kind of switching subject just a little bit. I also like that Schottenheimer is kind of taking the pressure off his players. You know, he in my opinion, taking the pressure off players like Dak, players like Mike.
Right.
You know
Take
that.
pressure off.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, because I feel like, I mean, even this whole offseason, he's asking about Micah's contract, how you feel about Micah being here, not being here, the progression of Dak, just like you brought up, is how big is a piece of, how big a piece of is Dak Prescott as far as building the culture, right? And just some of the, just like you said, in this presser, just a quote I wanted to pull from there. He said, just like you said, quote, it's our job as a coaching staff to have these guys spend time together in the building, get to know each other outside the building, go to dinner, etc. So that way the camaraderie is there late in the season. And also, just another quote he said about Micah. He said, as far as him being, he spoke about Micah being there as far as OTAs. It's not just specific to Micah, but he said other players are there. Some players are just there getting rehab. Some players are there
Mhm.
for meetings. Some players are there to kind of catch up, get to know the rookies. He said they don't necessarily pair rookies to veterans, but OTAs and, rookie minicamp is really for these guys to learn how to be an athlete, kind of acclimate to the NFL. So I just like
Right.
keeping it black and white, like, hey, it's strictly voluntary. If he wants, and not just he's saying, okay, this is voluntary, he doesn't have to be here, that's cut and dry. He's also saying, hey, I'm also in contact with the player. So I'm talking to him, hey,
Right.
here.
Right.
I'm letting you know how much trust I have in you already, but I want you, he's also just like I spoke about last week, intentionality. He's like, hey, I'm laying down the ground rules on what I expect, but at the same time, I'm not going to put the pressures of media and what everybody else is talking to you, everyone else is talking about on you. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with Dak,
Mhm.
you mentioned earlier about like, hey, it's not just about Dak building the culture. It's our job as a coaching staff to make sure that we
Right. The coaches,
help
like,
Dak.
exactly, sis. That's exactly what I'm getting at. It's
Yeah,
like this whole thing that it's Dak or die, it's Dak or die, that's out the window.
facts.
Scotty is trying to, and I like how too, because they're like, you just really close with Dak, and he's like, yeah, I'm close with Dak, but I'm not closer to Dak than I'm closer to any of my players because he
Right,
is doing his best to have his imprint on every single player
right.
because it's important. It's not good enough to just have a good relationship with Dak. You
Hmm.
need to have a good
Right.
relationship with because it takes a team to perform. It takes a team to perform, and I feel like Shotty is doing his best to build the team together. And we've been talking about this, like, and shout out to JC Cowboys. Y'all know JC is a also he does phenomenal film breakdowns. I
Yeah,
mean, and I think he does film breakdowns that are not even just Dallas Cowboys. So y'all shout out to him. Y'all go subscribe to his channel, JC Cowboys Network, and
yeah,
also shout out to Common Sense, who's just a very loyal supporter of a lot of content creators. So we appreciate you, Common Sense, being in the chat today.
yes.
But yeah, it's like Shadi is trying to do his best to We're not putting it on this person or that person. We're
Right.
putting it on all of us. But we'll have that mindset as a team if we continue to build together and bond, because we didn't have that under Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, we felt very segregated. This is the offense, this is the defense. And
Yeah.
even Dak said, he's like, listen, I'll be honest, in years past, I wasn't really worried that much about defense. I was worried about the offense, but now Shotty is making it like, no, Dak, you can't, as a leader, say, I'm only worried about the offense. I only have
Yeah.
dinners with the offense. I only have dinners, or have my wide receivers come over. It's like, you need to be close with all of your guys. You need to have a close relationship with Micah. You need to have a close relationship with Osa. You need to have a because that's the only way that you're gonna be able to establish the culture that we want. And that's
Right.
by true brotherhood, true togethership. And we just have not had that in
Yeah.
the past. So hopefully Shadi is able to bring us back to that type of camaraderie that they speak about in the 90s. How it was no offensive defense. We were all best friends. And I think one of the key things that I like is just symbolic. I don't know if Shadi knows that, but one of the key things that made them bond together in the 90s was the ping pong table.
Oh,
The
you know
playmakers
that.
spoke about it, about how that's how, when Dion came in, that's how he connected with all of us, and he would just play with whoever just so that he could build that relationship. And I don't know if Shai knows that,
Yeah.
but I think that's so cool that we're trying to. We don't know what we're gonna look like in September, but I know that Shadi is trying, and I know that he's doing the best that he can at this
Yeah.
current moment to make sure that we have the culture that we need.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And just one last note on that press conference to kind of go along with that. I think I don't know if you mentioned it earlier. But, I know we talked about Mike McCarthy when we're kind of this kind of rebuilding the culture kind of started. And I was actually watching a shot at the DLLS network. I believe that's the name. And I think that they had Keyshawn Johnson on the show earlier today. They
Mhm.
kind of spoke about him having different backgrounds, playing with the Jets, playing with the Cowboys, playing with Tampa Bay, about having different coaches, right? Having I think I have the clip here. I don't know if I uploaded it here, but just to kind of give a summation of what he said. He talked about you don't always have to have a Bill Parcells, but you don't always have to have a
Mhm.
Tony Dungy, right? You can have a mix of both. You don't have to be a excuse my language, but you don't have to be a hard ass, right? You don't have to be down your
Right.
players all the time, 24/7, hovering over them, taking out TVs from the training room, like he said Parcells did
Right.
when he first got there.
Right.
You don't have to necessarily be that hard, but at the same time, you're not saying don't Dungy was soft, but he's Keyshawn spoke about Dungy that he was super nice. I mean, we even see even today because me, I mostly know the Dungy we see on TV. I didn't see a lot of him, coaching the team that he did when he first started getting the NFL. So I know him as being nice. So when he kind of this commentary on the game, but I just see what I see as far as broadcasting. So to hear that Dungy, he was nice as can be, but at the same time he made sure that the players got home to their family. He made sure that football was first when you're in the building. You're concentrating. You make sure that you have that bond with your teammates, but at the same time off the field, home is important as well. So I just kind of I like what we're seeing from Shadi. I don't know if I'm not gonna say I've seen that hard side, but Shadi was asked about I don't know if he was asked directly, but he mentioned that hey, I have the ability to discipline these players, and he was around when Mike McCarthy was here. What I'm saying so. I think he kind of understands that these players I was under Mike, and maybe some players may see him as an extension of Mike. I don't know if they see him that way, but I'm saying it's possible. This is something that Keyshawn kind of spoke about, but he's saying that if I
Right.
want to have an impact on these players, I gotta, like we talked about, having his own imprint on the team and kind of show that he
Right.
has his own way of disciplining the players and make sure that he has his own way of making sure that he has command over that room. But instead of trying to be like Mike, instead of trying to be like other coaches who have been here in prior years, he wants to be kind of his own player. I mean, be his own coach to these players, so that way that it's Schottenheimer getting across to them, not just okay, were you under Mike, so we were kind of under the same
Right.
team. I mean, so he wants to kind of
Right.
differentiate himself from Mike McCarthy. I think that's what he's doing. I think we talked about in previous weeks that I just think that Schottenheimer's taking what he's learned from being under McCarthy and just kind of if you will, just kind of really putting that forward, times 100, at least to me, because he's building that relationship, really changing things that he sees that maybe if you will that were wrong, or maybe that he didn't think that were effective under McCarthy, and is kind of doing things his way that he thinks that can be more effective to the player. So I just like that he's kind of taking his time now. I mean, like they say, nothing. I hate to say nothing to talk about, but in the off season, This is when you need to build that. So that way, this is when you build the foundation. So that when you get into the season and then you get further along, against these tough teams that we see in the second half of our schedule, you're not going to have time, then the time of the season to be like, okay, guys, we got to do this. Okay, well, make sure you
Right.
guys post in November. Like, you don't have time.
Right. That yeah,
I
it's
already had
it's
to be in the closet. You know what
it
I'm saying?
started now. Like CD said, he said the 2025 season starts now. And y'all, there's some weirdo in
Yeah,
Mickey's
I
chat.
was like,
I don't know if you have mods or what, but
girl, I just happened to look down. And I was like, what's going
please shoot that
on?
person, y'all, and get him hurt, they whatever
Yes,
out of here.
that was
So,
pretty mean on.
but yeah, so I think that that made me lose my train of thought. But yeah, I just think that Shotty is
Just Schottenheimer kind of building that relationship with his players
yeah,
now.
right. It's like you got to build those relationships now because the season starts now. This is why, shout out to Mike McCarthy. He said the good teams have their players in by April. You know what I'm saying? Because
Exactly.
that's when it starts. Like, you need to start building this camaraderie. You need to start going through the playbook together. You need to start going through the plays together. Whether, we can't put pads on and stuff like that, but this is what you call mental repetition. You know what I'm saying? And they
Yeah.
also are able to do some physical reps. Like, you can't hit and stuff like that, but just getting a feel, right? Getting a feel for each other, getting a feel for the coaching staff, and also the coaching staff. Like, I'm sure we got a lot of new coaches,
Yeah.
right? You got a lot of new coaches, so you really have to. These coaches need time to establish and put their imprint on these individual and on their individual position groups.
Yeah.
But of course, they cannot do that. Um, you know, it, if you try to start this type of thing in season, it's too late. It's too
Exactly.
late. And
Right.
so that's why you got to establish it now. You've got to establish the culture now. And I do think culture is 100% important. It's 100% important. I think that talent matters, right? Talent matters 100%,
Yeah.
but also you could have a bunch of talent that underperforms. I feel like that's been the Cowboys. Like, we've had talent, but
Yeah.
we have underperformed in big moments because we didn't have the mental fortitude. We
Right.
didn't have the mental capability to withstand and to go against these physical teams who are going to punch us in the mouth early and often. You
Right.
know what I'm
And
saying?
since we
So,
saw on we saw how we saw the demeanor on the sideline, right? When we been losing games, we wouldn't see
right.
Mike and Dak
You wouldn't
talking to
see,
each
right? You
other.
wouldn't see people talking, let's get back, let's do this. You would just see a whole
Yeah.
bunch of guys sitting on the bench looking lost, and we can't have that. And, it's possible that, CD said in his interview, he was like, because they were like, how do you feel about how Shotty's doing the culture thing? And he's like, it's important because if we establish a relationship now, then if something's going on in the game, then we feel comfortable to communicate that with each other.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
we know that we're not attacking each other or anything like that. We're just
Yeah.
trying to win. And that's what's important. Is like we need the culture established now, because
Yeah.
if you wait, if you wait till it's too late, you wait till the season starts, then it's gonna be hard for these players to feel like they can have these types of conversations and stuff like that, because they're like, I don't know you. Like, yeah, we play on the same team, but I
Exactly.
don't know you. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just
Right.
talk to me any type of way. And you
Right.
don't want that. But you wouldn't have that reaction if this person is my brother. What they're doing is out of love. It's the same thing with Shotty. Like, he's trying to build these relationships so that these players understand that if he does come down hard on them, once football actually starts, they know that Shotty loves them, that Shotty has a personal relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't chew out a player and stuff like that if expect them to respond well if they don't know you. So
Exactly. I think we saw that a lot on the stream when they were releasing the schedule, right? I mean, I know CD and Micah have hung out before, but I mean, you saw how they were going back and forth. And we, at least for me, this is that was kind of the first time I seen Micah's, if you say, if you will, competitive streak kind of come out, because even though these were kind of like little challenges that these guys had to do, the kind of fun, fun and games type things. Micah was taking this seriously. He was like, "Look, man, I want to win." He's like, "Hey, Mike, CD is cheating and all this stuff." Like, yeah, they were joking and stuff like that, but like you said, sister, you can only have that kind of relationship with someone if you're close, right? Like, it's different if we never really seen that kind of relationship with CD and the other wide receivers, right? So I can't imagine CD kind of go back and forth, joking, maybe with Tolbert or or Brooks or Flournoy, like we see him kind of getting close with Pickens, or even the relationship that he has with Dak, or the relationship that he has with Micah. I'm not sure if we
Right.
would have seen that with other players on the team. So I like that this kind of icebreaker type vibe, early in the offseason, so that way later in the season these guys don't have to hit these kind of obstacles, when it least matters, because we don't want to be dealing with small things that kind of stop this team like we've seen in previous years.
Facts, sis. I think exactly. It's like I want to see. We won't know. Like I keep saying, like we don't know if it's going to happen. But if I see us in games, fighting, battling, communicating, trying to get ourselves back up and on the same page and stuff like that. And Mike and CD started it last year, but I want them to continue in that role and grow in
Yeah,
that role.
yeah,
Because it's time. The time is now. You know what I'm saying? Like we've got to get serious. So all that pouting that CD do and pouting that Micah was doing and all that stuff, like that
facts.
type of stuff needs to be cut out.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, we are professionals. We gotta act like professionals, and as the leaders, like if that's how you acted, how you expect the younger folks to act?
exactly, exactly.
Like how you expect them? Like you're their leader. They're looking for you for direction,
Yeah.
but you pouting and looking all distraught and all that type of stuff. Uh, so yeah, we definitely we gotta do better. But you got this quote up here. Are you just gonna go through some of the quotes
Um,
from?
Why I brought up CD because I just kind of want to talk about kind of where we're seeing him. We're kind of seeing the development of these players in real time, right? I mean, even CD spoke about when Amari first got here that Amari was kind of in the mentor role, and he was kind of the mentee, right? He talked about how Amari taught
Right,
him so much, and even the little bit of time that he was here, excuse me, T.Y. Hilton. I mean, we saw the pictures
right.
of he being really close, and he talked about how T.Y.
Mm-hmm.
Hilton helped him, and he came in what November, I think, or maybe
You're right. He
mid
came in
season.
hella. It was very late. It was
Very
very
good.
late when he came
So,
in.
yeah, so just to see CD kind of grab. Well, they were already friends before, but just to see CD kind of pull George Pickens, and they've really been hip to hip since he's been here. He said George Pickens hasn't really stopped smiling since he's been in the building. We've seen him. He's starting to build relationships with Dak. We saw him dapping up Dak in practice. Shout out to your thumbnail, sis. That is so. I just love that picture.
I know. I love it.
I love that. Since like I can't remember the last time that the Cowboys took a picture, and it just gave me fire in my soul. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing
Yeah.
be out there, and he's dapping up Pickens. Like it's not like they're all walking together. It's Dak and CD, and everybody else is off to the side. Like
Right.
he's dapping up Pickens. Turpin is there. In the picture,
Yeah.
too. You know what I'm saying? Of course, CD. They had their relationship already, so it's just like already. That's really helping. Like already, like we see the O line. Building
Right.
together
Right. The O line
early in
going
the
to the
offseason.
game. Like what we're saying, we're seeing what we want. We're seeing the right things.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it will work because there's no way that building a relationship with your teammates is gonna be harmful. You know what I'm saying? It's going to
Right.
work. It is going to help. This is just basic common sense knowledge that if you want to win a championship, you need to be close. You need to be able to perform
Yeah.
on one accord with your team. That's the only way you're gonna win. And I did have what's his name? I did have I can pull it up. Nick Harris, he put out his note. Shout out to Nick Harris.
Okay.
From what is he? I think he's with the Fort Worth Star Telegram now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think he didn't he take. I think he took a shot to Clarence Hill as well. I think he took his.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
took right. Yeah, he took Clarence Hill. But just looking here at his notes because I did want to kind of talk about it. Is giving notes on George Pickens. Said George Pickens holding a pair of receptions on a quick slant and a comeback along the left sideline.
Mhm.
Wanye Thomas played at safety and in the slot. So that's interesting. What do you think about that, sis?
I love seeing that. Like first of all, I didn't even know that Donovan Wilson was dealing with an injury. Like, did he get? Like
I
maybe
have no, yeah, they didn't. I don't know. Yeah, I am shocked about that as well because I
yeah,
didn't know he was dealing with anything. But apparently, yeah, he's dealing with some type of injury.
So definitely, speedy recovery for him. I love some Donovan Wilson. Love how he hits. I do believe he brings, a different level, to the defense. Shout out to Donovan Wilson. He's been here for a while, but I love seeing Wanye getting a chance to finally and playing in two spots. Playing safety and actually playing in the slot as well. And I think
Right.
further down there, they also mentioned Izzy playing. Getting on the field. I love that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love seeing these guys who, not saying they never had an opportunity, but we knew what it was, in previous years.
Right. Right.
Guys were
Right. Right.
maybe late in the season getting opportunities, but that's not. I mean, not saying you don't want to see these guys late in the season, but you want to see the buildup. You know what I mean? You want to see
Right.
these guys get full
Right. Hmm.
opportunity. You know what I mean? So I love that Wanye Thomas is getting a chance to be out there, show what he's capable of. We've seen him, do some special teams, in camp, and I saw, taking and doing returns and things like that. We saw him kind of getting a little bit, kind of, and I think he came in with Marquise Bell. They kind of had a brotherhood kind of came in. We kind of see them really both grow. Shout out to Marquise Bell. I hope he's getting well as well. I think I think dislocated his elbow or shoulder last season, so I hope
Right.
he's doing well as well. But I love these young guys, getting opportunity to be on the field and really show what they're capable of, because we know that they're now getting a full opportunity, a full look on from these coaches to be like, okay, who's the best that we have stepping up.
Exactly. And I think, with Wanye, that's a player that we've been wanting to get more reps.
Yeah,
I think he did get hurt like at the end of last year, so it kind of like cut his season short. But I
okay,
think that Wanye is a player that's definitely, um, with his versatility and athletic ability,
yeah,
I believe that he's a player that should be on the field. He should be on the field over someone like the likes of Donovan Wilson.
yeah,
So, this is not that it's good that Donovan is hurt, but what I'm saying, this is good for Wanye in that while Donovan is hurt, he's getting to display his skills. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's the ups and downs. When you're off on the sideline, you can't show the coaches your skills. You can't make an impression because you're on the
yeah,
sideline to record. So I hope that Wanye takes this opportunity and someone else. And I've been watching film again, watching our games, and I was like, dang it. Zimmer, shout out to Zimmer because Zimmer did give Izzy McQuamu, some snaps.
yeah,
I think he gave him a few games, and Izzy was playing very well, coming up and tackling,
hmm,
pass breakups, and so it's just how I knew. So that's really a guy. There's no notes on him, but that's a guy that I really hope gets a real chance
yeah,
because I believe that Izzy is reason why I was okay. Everybody was distraught with Jay Lou gone, but I was like, listen, I believe Izzy is ready for that spot. I think he's been ready for 2 to 3 years. He's just unfortunately had a vet in front of him, and I know he
yeah,
was in a doghouse for a while with the DQ staff, so he really wasn't seeing the field after that 2022 playoff run. But I'm hoping to see him. And we look through more of the notes. It says these linebackers, Shamar James, Buddy Johnson, both had both had interceptions.
yeah.
And so I think that that's something. Y'all know Shamar James is our rookie sixth or seventh round pick,
Yeah,
or
six round.
maybe he's a fifth round. I don't remember, but uh, that kid's only 20 years old, so he has a lot of upside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
and
that's
he
why
actually.
we see him early getting interceptions because that shows IQ. Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Nick Harris actually kind of expounded on that on Media Mash today. Media Mash today, excuse me. Just talking about how the linebacker group just looks completely different. I mean, since it was just two, I think what 2 off seasons ago, we had someone by the name of Scott McCurley. They talk about how we had almost no linebackers
Yeah,
in the room. And so just
exactly.
seeing just really just this linebacker room kind of flourish. To really just overall
Right, exactly. It's like that was like one of our weakest groups, and now
facts.
it's become really a strength. So
Yeah, and also not to control, but also a variety of guys, not just the same kind of body type, same prototype. We have young guys, we have
right,
theirs. I know we have Overshown coming back once he gets healthy, but also having guys like Sanborn, guys like Murray in the room. We kind of have like
Murray
young.
Sanborn. I want to know how Murray is looking because
Me
nobody said anything
too.
to him. But yeah, those
Right.
are like we've completely revamped that group.
Yeah.
And again, that was one of our weaknesses in
Hmm.
2023, 2022. Linebacker was a weakness for us. So the fact that we've completely redid that room and now we've got real linebacker coaches in here who can actually
Right.
coach our guys and not just somebody who got the job because of nepotism.
Right.
That's
And
great. And also,
And sis, let me
shout
cut you
out
off,
to
but Schottenheimer actually spoke on that. I think he didn't mention this flat out, but he talked about having guys in the room, having their coaching staff who actually knows what they're talking about. In this press conference,
right,
talk about guys who be able to communicate, but also guys who had the experience. I mean, it's one thing to be able to try to coach a guy, but if you don't have the experience or you don't, what I'm saying, really have the wherewithal to really explain to the guys what you want from them and to be able to explain it when you're actually on the grass, it's definitely different.
right. It's definitely different. I agree with that. And shout out to Joe Tranchina. He said he's watching all the way from Italy. So we appreciate you,
Oh
Joe,
wow!
so
Excited.
much for your support. 100% watching us all the way in Italy. But
Facebook group as well. Trying to get
yeah,
on the
he's on
Facebook.
Facebook too. Yeah, and I think Jake Ferguson said he added some good weight, but
Yeah.
that's not great because look what he said below. Brevin Spanford was unstoppable today. Multiple receptions, including one where he separated downfield. And you see, I think shout out to Boss Cowboy because he has been saying that Span is going to show up and show out.
Yep.
No one's believed him. Everybody's like, shut the hell up. This is Jake Ferguson's room, blah, 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 blah. But Boss has been saying this, and he's been saying this because Span has been training with his guy, Real Truth, in OC because OC and the Real Truth, they're trainers together now. Like they're
Mhm.
together, like business partners. And so to see that day one, Span is already showing out,
Mhm.
that's a huge. First of all, we're gonna give claps to Boss Cowboy, but I really strongly believe, and I don't care what anyone says, Ferg needs to perform.
Yeah.
Ferg needs to perform again. Ferg needs to perform. I know he had a Pro Bowl season in 2023, right? But what the way he performed last year with and without Dak was unacceptable. It was unacceptable. So I'm not into just keeping a person in a spot because they were good. If you're going to stay in a spot, if you're going to be TE1 Ferg, then you need to show it. See, that's a position where we're going to look at is politics going to be played here, or is the best man actually going to win?
I mean that's an interesting question, sis. Because we even last year we talked about tight ends, potentially being one of our strong groups, and we really didn't see a lot from them last season, unfortunately. Even like you spoke about, even from Ferg, and I know he went through injury, went through having to help out the O line, things like that. But like you said, I
Yep.
agree with you. I agree with you because if you let these tight ends pass you, not saying they. Not saying they can't. 'Cause I still love Ferg. I'm definitely a true believer in him still being tight end one, especially with Pickens coming in. I mean, I think we said this last week that now you're putting these guys back in the positions where they, really dominate, where they really specialize in. So I think we'll definitely see an uptick in Ferg's performance. But like hearing something like Brevin Span four coming along, that was one of my favorite tight ends, even though he was, and being a rookie last season,
Yes, sis. I
especially.
remember you doing the show on the tight ends, and it went viral.
Yeah, and I was very excited as far as the potential, right? I mean, it was always about potential with the room. And that's really the one thing that just never really kind of panned out last season. But I mean, even seeing a player like Luke Schoonmaker kind of come along late in the season, kind
Hmm.
of get better a little bit. So it gives me a little bit more, a little bit more confidence in that room. And even Schottenheimer mentioning Lipke by name, getting tight end reps as well. I love hearing that as
Right.
well.
Right.
We talked about that last week as well, since whether Lipke was going to be able to hang around or if he was, if his position was, threatened by having, so how many running backs, so how many tight ends, like where does Lippy really actually fit in? But for him to be mentioned by
Mhm.
name, I love that he'll still get an opportunity with this offense, and that they're not, at least in my opinion, that Schottenheimer's staff doesn't have the idea of leaving anybody out. That they're really giving all these guys the true, a true nugget of competition. Like, hey, I'm telling each and every one of you guys, like, look, man, really play your role and your position to the full potential because this is really, I'm really giving you guys all a good, good and fair shot to see what you guys are really good at, and if you guys can really succeed, and if you guys really can, take on these. not just your position on the field, but taking the responsibilities I'm giving you as your coach. To get to know your teammates, to
Exactly,
be able to run
exactly.
the playbook. Are you doing everything I'm asking of you? But at the same time, are you still performing on the field?
Exactly. And I think exactly says I think Shotty is trying to see he's not anointing anybody. I think that he
Hmm.
wants everybody to show up and see, are you doing what I'm asking of you? Do
Hmm.
you know the playbook? Are you performing? What's up, Wee Woo? Glad to see you, Wee Woo.
What's
Uh
up?
uh but yeah, are you doing everything I'm asking you to do off the field? Are you building those relationships? Because
Hmm.
it's going to be so much that goes into, I feel like, who Shotty's going to pick as captains and all that type of stuff. And I think these players, we need you to show up, Ferg. I hope Ferg shows up this year. And I hope you keep that number one tight end spot. But I
Yeah.
don't want it to be given to you. I don't want it to be given, and I'm gonna just say it. The way you performed last year was unacceptable. It was a huge letdown. We were
Yeah.
looking at you to be our target too, and it was bad. It was 0 touchdowns and 400 yards bad. That's how bad it was. So we
Yeah.
need you to perform way better. And I'm looking out for guys like Brevin. I'm looking out for guys like Spoon because I'm watching those games toward the end, and both of those tight ends really stepped up. I don't give a damn what y'all say about Ferg, this and that. I saw Schoon and I saw Span catching passes, not
Hmm.
dropping balls, getting open, and being reliable targets for Cooper Rush. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
So however you want to take that's how you're gonna take that. But looking at Turpin, see, it's gonna be for that wide receiver three spot. I think it's a three-man race. It's Turpin, Tolbert, and Mingo
Yeah. Yeah. And
because
that's
I
crazy
think
racing.
Turpin has just stepped up to where he really has grown into not just a gadget guy, but an actual wide receiver. And I feel like
Yeah.
he's got the potential to be the wide receiver three. And I think those three, Turpin, Tolbert, and Mingo, they're gonna be battling it out because it's
Yeah.
like, and I hope Shotty lets them battle it out. Don't go with Tolbert just because he was the touchdown leader. Or we don't care about none. This is a new year,
Hmm.
new season. It's time for these guys to actually compete. But that's that's a competition. And I know they got this Jalen Cropper guy, but we're not worried about him.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
But yeah, with those three, I am looking forward. Like, okay, Tober, we brought somebody in here. You're not our number two. We clearly told you you're not our number two. You're not enough.
Hmm.
So, are you going to take this wide receiver three spot? Or are you going to let Mingo and Turpin beat you out? Because I feel
Hmm.
like those boys are really hungry, especially Turpin. Mingo, I don't know. We haven't really heard much about Mingo or anything like that. So I don't know how hungry Mingo is. But I know Turpin is, and I know the coaches, especially Shoddy and them, have spoken highly about how Turpin has transformed. Like he is
Yeah.
actually a wide receiver now compared to, oh, he's just a gadget guy. He's just a kick returner.
And in fact,
Um,
I'm with you on that because I really, I mean, I don't think they will, just kind of set him to this being a returner. But because me and my pops kind of talk about this, like if you're gonna have, if you're kind of looking for another role for maybe Deuce, maybe kind of get Deuce worked over with maybe the punt returns or kick returns, and just you'll have more use of Turpin on the offense. Because I agree with you, sis. I mean, I just kind of seeing Turpin's background, I definitely agree with you. Just seeing how he's kind of not just earning the respect of the players in the Cowboys organization. But I was watching I think I was in the Pro Bowl games when Turpin was out there playing with the other players. I playing the flag football game, and they talked. They spoke very highly of Turpin and how he's kind of gained a lot of respect around the league. Of course, we know the records he's broken and things like that. But seeing how he kind of operated with other players around the league, they were dapping him up. He's making plays. I think he even threw. I think he even threw maybe a touchdown, or I think he even threw a pass in that Pro Bowl game. But he's like, I definitely agree. He's definitely transformed. He's definitely grown as a player. Just coming on being just for being a special teams guy, because he was MVP. I'm saying in the USFL or UFL, whichever it was
mhm.
called. He was in that league. He was MVP for a reason. So I think that Schottenheimer will hopefully use his talent, to its extent. And I really hope that. I mean, I think it's going to show on the field because we've seen. I mean, even here, as early as OTAs, he's
He's
making big
very
plays.
explosive. He's very
Yeah,
explosive. So, and that's one thing that Mingo and Tober don't got. Y'all don't got that explosion. Y'all don't got that
exactly.
speed. Y'all do have the height advantage on them. That's for sure. Y'all got
Hmm.
the height and weight advantage, but we need more than that.
Yeah.
Tober, I listened to your interview. You said you worked
You heard
on
that, sis?
everything. You said you worked on everything. You said you worked on route running. Okay, let's see it, buddy.
Yeah. He said you
Because
can't cover all three of us. I'm like,
how
oh,
it
so
was,
you three, Tolbert? Okay, I hear you. I
yeah,
hear you
yeah.
trying to say.
Because how it was not, your route running in 2024 was it was trash. We'll be honest, it wasn't good. So
Blocking
you
too.
say you worked on it, then we better be able to see on the field that you actually worked on it. And I do want to take a like break. I would ask y'all to please like the video if you're watching. Those who are on Twitter and Facebook, if y'all could come over to the YouTube side and like the video because that helps. Y'all watching on Twitter is great, but it doesn't really do anything for me. You know what I'm saying? Especially
Right.
to go on YouTube. The only way that's going to happen is if y'all are actually liking the video on YouTube to help this push out to the algorithm and so more people can see it so I can get more subscribers. So if y'all could please like the video on my channel, StarGazer Sports, also Mickey's channel, Cravin Cowboys, that would be greatly appreciated. And we would answer your question. Haven't heard any updates from Maris. I saw a picture of him on had to be John Machota or some one of these guys' page. He looked like he got a little bit stockier. I will say that. But as far as any like direct comments or anything about him, I have not heard. Which is a guy that I want to hear about. I want to hear about Maris. I want to hear about Murray. I want to hear more about Izzy.
Yeah, like you
More
mentioned
more
Beto. I
on
mean,
Pickens
ever since
besides
we
this
appealed,
because this is just
I heard
basic
really a lot
stuff.
about him.
Right. It's like we would like to hear more about these guys. I might have to tag some people who are actually there at who can go to the practices and be like, can y'all please tell us about these people? Because
Yeah,
like we don't like Jalen Cropper, we don't care about this guy. Like no offense, but we don't. He's not gonna make the team. This
right,
guy's been on our practice squad for 3 years. He's always doing great at camp. He's not going to make the team. So it's like put guys on here that you actually know are gonna make the team. Like start
right,
observing guys that are gonna actually make the team. All of these, this is good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying we want more. I'm not saying these are trash. No, I'm just saying we want more.
right.
But looking at Kyer Elam, this is one I've been watching Kyer Elam because when we got Kyer, people were saying he was not good. He looked like he lost a step since when he was a rookie and all of this type of stuff. And so to see that, because I've been watching him, he's been training, he's been doing speed track work, he's been doing mirror work where he's playing the DB, he's also playing the wide receiver, and then on top of that, he's been doing boxing. So I've been watching what he's doing, and I feel like he's
Oh wow.
he's definitely put in the work
Yeah,
this summer, and to see that it's actually translating and this is not because this is a great note that you said he was had a past breakups and looked confident. That's good because I think a knock on him was he didn't really see the confidence. You didn't see some of the twitch that you would like to see for a first round corner, such as himself.
yeah,
And I think that he spoke about how in his interview, it was only 2 minutes long, but he spoke about how he feels the energy from the coaches and he feels the confidence in the coaches in him, and that's how he's able to perform better. You know what I'm saying? And then
yeah.
Shotty said that Elam, they they can measure like game speed or whatever. And they said Elam has been the fastest or one of the fastest like 2 weeks in a row
Okay.
back to back. So
Yeah, we
that
need that. We can't have guys who getting dusted. Getting dusted behind
right. So
us.
it's like
That
for
happened
so
way too
to
many
hear
times.
that is good because his knock was speed and twitch. So
Yeah,
if you're saying that this guy is reaching, he's playing the fastest. That's very good, and then to see that he's playing confident, he's getting past breakups. That's very good because a lot of people, you're helping yourself, Elam, because a lot of people have been saying we need to get Gilly back in here, we need to bring in some other veteran corner because
yeah,
they just did not have confidence. But if you continue to stack these days, then people may be like, maybe we don't need to go. Maybe we're good at corner. Maybe we're good until we get Diggs back and Revel back.
yeah.
We have a core here that's good enough that we feel like can get us through. And I think last note was just about the running backs, which it looks like there's no clear direction there yet.
Right.
But I will say in the presser, Shotty did talk about Javonte Williams a lot,
Yeah,
as if he's basically the lead guy in charge right now. That's what it sounded like. But he did also say like, "Oh, we don't know, and we're gonna we're gonna figure it out." But I'm like, you mentioned Javante a lot,
Yeah.
which means that like you either been talking to him, y'all been going to dinners or whatever, because you're feeling more. It feels like you mentioned him a lot, which means he's on your radar.
Yeah, he
And
talked about trying to find out
yeah,
what he named his dog and all that. And I'm like,
yeah,
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 he's
yeah.
mentioned them a lot.
He was mentioning him a lot, so I feel like Shotty likes him. You know what I'm saying? Again, we don't know. We know what Javante looked like coming out of North Carolina, and that was amazing. You know what I'm saying? He was
Yeah.
amazing. He had a great rookie year. Great rookie year. Um, it just so happened that he faced, I think, was it two back-to-back leg injuries, and so it kind of like slowed him down. I
Yeah.
also think that the scheme that he was in when Sean Payton got there, he had him running more of a zone scheme, and that's not really his thing. He's not a zone runner. He is a downhill power, a gap scheme runner. So it'll be we got him for very cheap, but I do think that he could be a wild card player where we paid him $2, but
Yeah.
he gave us 8, 9, 10 million APY production.
Yeah.
I do think that he could possibly be one of those guys. Of course, we don't know, but just looking, hearing from the coaches and stuff like that, and thinking about if he could get back to form, he could be somebody that's really good for us.
Yeah.
No update on Carson either. That's another guy that I would like to hear about to see how he's doing, but no update on him either yet.
Yeah, and I mean those are all great notes. Like you said, shout out to Nick Harris. I'm glad he really,
Yeah, shout out to
just
Nick.
really showing, like you said, the players that we really, hopefully we'll find out more. Like you said about the players that we want to find out about. But I'm glad that they're putting out notes from OTAs and so we kind of get some exposure for these guys. I mean, like you mentioned about Kyer, it's very happy for him to be, kind of showcasing what he does have because we're definitely going to need, some corners. I mean, we see how our schedule kind of starts out. We're going to be facing some very viable receivers in this upcoming season. And actually, I want to get your thoughts on this. I was like I mentioned earlier, I was listening to Cowboys Break, and another point that Ambar Garcia brought on the show was about players playing during preseason. And I've always kind of had my certain thoughts about it. I've always felt like I kind of the Cowboys aren't really a team that plays starters in the preseason often. We've seen in previous seasons, but with the type of schedule that we do have, I can understand why she brought up as a point of emphasis because I mean Eagles, I'm saying Giants, and I mean as we know, I know it's the Giants quote unquote, but it is the divisional game that we do have to win. I don't know if they got another receiver, but they do have neighbors over there. They did beef up that front seven. What I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's gonna be some tough games. Coming out. Even Chicago. What I'm saying? I know they don't have the greatest team, but they do. I think they do have some offensive weapons. So I'm saying we definitely have to. So as far as I mean, at least I'll go ahead and go first. At least my opinion. Maybe they may think about changing it up this season, especially with new coaching staff. It's just a freshness, right? So if you're trying to have the organization go through a smooth transition and you maybe want to put your own imprint on things, maybe Schottenheimer may think about maybe not all starters, but maybe playing some starters, maybe at certain positions, maybe at the running back position, maybe at the cornerback position where we need to see some great
Hmm.
improvement. Maybe even a
Hmm.
defensive end. I mean, I know we do have our starters, but maybe some of those top end pieces, maybe like Ezraku, maybe Fowler to kind of get him back into the groove of playing with our defense again. Not too often because he's definitely a veteran, but maybe in the last preseason game, or maybe even just the early preseason game to kind of get him out there to get some snaps going. But what's your thoughts on this? Just because I know that's not something the Cowboys always do, but with the way our schedule is looking, and with the new coaching staff and the new scheme and all that, what's your thoughts on possibly Schottenheimer thinking about playing some of our, not all stars, but some of our stars in the preseason?
Yeah, I think. What's up, 100 grand? It's my guy DJ 100 grand.
What's up, Hurricane?
Appreciate
Thanks for
you
being here.
being
Appreciate you.
being in chat with us. But I think the players should play in preseason. The only player that I'm skeptical of because he's everything to us is Dak, and
Yeah.
that's the only one I'm skeptical of. But I'm like, we can let Dak play just a quarter. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like for the starters, I would say like preseason game 2 and 3, let them get a quarter in.
Yeah.
I do think that they need to play because it's just like these other teams are getting advantages because they're getting in the groove of things
Right.
ahead of us. So they're starting the ground off running
Yeah.
faster than us because we haven't played. If we don't play Dak till preseason, if we don't play Dak till September, Dak would not have played a game since he went down in the Atlanta Falcons game.
Facts. Facts.
So we would really like it. And some of these guys that got shut down early and stuff like that, like we would really like to see let these guys get their feet wet. I know we're concerned about injury, but injury could happen in practice. It can
Anytime.
happen anytime. There's really no way to like really avoid it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And you can also alter game plans to where Dak is not just going back on his heels every play to avoid him
Right.
getting hit and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
will
Because it
say,
would be. I mean, just to kind of comment on that point, because it would be great to kind of get our run game going, especially in the preseason. So
absolutely,
why not?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like at least let the guys like a couple of reps. Like they need some
Yeah.
reps. We're not saying
Facts.
haven't played a whole game and stuff like that because they got a long season. But
Yeah.
I think you need to at least let these guys get some reps. And one thing I am excited though for Dak, an update on his health is because somebody asked him like, "Have you slimmed down?" And so he was like, "No, not really." He was like, "My fiance, she just won't give me ice cream. I got to eat protein
You're
powder."
right.
But he was like, "I also have been running every day," and I'm like, "Great,
Yeah.
great," because I really think that last injury that Dak had was simply because like you ain't running, you ain't working out that muscle, you ain't
Yeah.
stretching, and then you just decide today, oh, I'm gonna go run full speed and
Yeah.
get hit, full speed by 200, 300-pound men. Like it was a recipe for disaster. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that Dak is like, I need to start running. I need to start building my flexibility, my durability, because he knows, like, Dak, you got to stay on the field.
Yeah.
Like we need, but we can help him as well. And Shotty can as well by having a run game, right? Not
Yeah.
having that just dropping back. And something that Clayton Adams, our offensive coordinator, said, if we can, after this, we can kind of close out. But
Yeah.
Clayton Adams had said that the run game is a disease and that it's so much easier to pass block when the other team doesn't know you're passing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And see, in our case, in the past, for the past 2 years, we have not had a serious running game. So the run game was a threat to nobody, and teams pretty much knew 9 times out of 10 we're passing the ball. Mike McCarthy tried to mitigate it by, okay, we'll just do quick passes, but Mike, quick passes are also easy for defenses to just sit on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was the issue there, but I really do think that we can protect Dak. We've done what we needed to do with the offensive line. It will take pressure and get our guys our oil. It will get our O line lathered up if they can run the ball because I've seen them. They want to push guys over. They want to pancake guys. Even people who are down on Tyler Guyton. I'm going through his film again thoroughly. And I'm seeing him. He wants to hit. He wants to pancake as well in the run game. Now he may
Yeah.
not always be strong enough, but he's trying. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I feel like we need to let these. We need to Bill Shotty, this was the last time I said. Shotty said that we're going to run this our offense through the offensive line. Okay, I better see you, Shotty. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
we need to protect Dak and his health. And the way you protect
Yeah.
your quarterback is stop allowing him to get hurt. I mean, hit. Stop allowing him to get hit so much, and have a run game to where he's not constantly dropping back, dropping back, dropping back, dropping back, dropping back, because that puts
Yeah.
pressure on him and it puts a lot of pressure on your offensive line when they're just dropping back all game. So we'll see, because we definitely got to get a run game established uh, so that our offense can flow better. For everybody involved. The run game
Yeah.
helps the passing game. Like all of it goes together. All of it goes together.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, sis. I think those are all great points. I just really love the moves that the Cowboys are making. Just to kind of close out, I just love the leadership that Shotty is. Because we talked a lot about Mike McCarthy kind of delegating his, the leadership to the positional coaches and things like that. And I think that Shotty is doing it in a similar way. But I love that he's just in my opinion, is taking things a step further and just really laying it, because I just final note, he kind of had this quote from the presser that I'll say, just kind of close out. He said, quote, people do well with very clear, bright lines. If I'm calling, because this is kind of in regards to Micah being there at OTAs, he says, if I'm calling a player and begging him to come to OTAs, but I don't take the time to go and support him at a foundation event or take him to a dinner, I really have what's in his best interest. And I think for me, in my opinion, that he kind of goes further than McCarthy, because he's not only establishing the trust that he has in the players, but he's also trying to get that reciprocity, right? He's making sure that he's getting that trust back from the players and also from the coaching staff as well. Like you mentioned, coming down on the coaches in front of the players. You may see that, of course, across the league, but as far as Cowboys wise, like we would more so see McCarthy kind of delegate and say, okay, well, I'll talk to the coach, see what's going on, but we necessarily see it, right in front of our eyes. So I like that McCarthy. I like the Schottenheimer's being upfront and bold with what he expects from the players, from the coaches, and maybe even a little bit from the front office. We see the front office is kind of moving,
a lot of it. They said Shotty was the one pushing for that picking straight. So
exactly.
It turns out he was the one pushing for Booker. So it's
Yes.
like he's being very consistent with the front office, with the players, with the coaches of what he wants.
Yeah.
And I feel like, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say even just acquiring George Pickens and with the questions behind him, he's letting people know like, hey, like he's being operative, with the other teammates. He's being, vocal, taking notes in the meetings, making sure that he's, persevering in the right way. And I like that he's being clear and concise and letting people know that, don't pay attention to the narratives. Don't try to put players in the box. Don't put Micah in the box by saying, "Oh, is he there? Is he at OTAs? Is he not there?" Is Dak a part of building the culture? Like he's just like, hey, chill out.
Right.
Don't, what I'm saying? Like I'll take the pressure. And McCarthy did that as well, but I just like that we're seeing Schottenheimer kind of go the extra mile with it, and I think he's really taking the time to build the foundation for later, right now in the offseason, and I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Facts. I agree with that, and I think the key word you said was reciprocity. Like if the relationship's got to be mutual. You know what I'm saying? You just can't scream at somebody and demand all of these things, but where's the relationship? If you want somebody to listen to you, they probably you listen to somebody the more that you know them. If somebody trying to tell you what to do and you don't know them, you're like, F off. You know what I'm saying? Like, who are you? To be telling me what to do, coach or not.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Like,
people don't care. Like it's not about the new thing. It's like it's these. That's when they talk about the new generation. But it's like the new generation, quote unquote, is not just going to bow down to authority.
Right.
Like you kind of have to earn their trust, and you have to have more of a relationship than I'm the coach, so you do what I say. Like maybe that shit flew back then, but it's never flown. It's never flown because even a coach like Jimmy Johnson, he knew his players. He had close relationships with his players, so he could talk to them. He's like, I knew who I could talk to crazy, and who I couldn't talk to crazy.
Facts. Even Zimmer said it just as early as last year. You know what I'm saying?
Like I know what I need to do. Like a good coach knows. Like you can't treat everybody the same. You got to know your players intimately because your job. And Dak said this yesterday. He's like, it's the coach's job to get the best out of the players. That's exactly right. It's the coach's job. So when the players are not performing to their optimal level, we're looking at you, coach. It's your fault. It is your fault because this is your team. It is your fault. You're the leader. You're the voice. You're who everybody's looking to and following.
Yeah.
So if your team ain't performing in big moments, that's an indictment on you more than it is about the actual players. But anyway, we appreciate everybody. Shout out to Jameson. He snuck in at the end, but hope you're doing well, Jameson. Physically, I know we know you were going through some medical stuff, so always praying for you.
Yeah.
We talked about that Michael comment. You're gonna have to rewind and see our thoughts on that, but. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Before we get out of here, please like the video.
Yes.
Please like the video. StarGazer Sports, Cravin Cowboys. Please like the video on both of our channels. If you're on Twitter, hi. Thank you for being on Twitter. But please also come over to the YouTube side. I have reposted the link on my page, so you just have to click on the link and like it. Please donate to our Cash Apps. down there below, StarGazer Sports, Mickey MP Cox 90. And yeah, I think since you got any last words, or you ready to let's go?
Yeah,
Cut in?
yeah, we're good. Yeah, really appreciate you guys'
Okay.
time. Appreciate your time, sis. I hope hope we're able to jump on next week and have a lot more news to bring you guys because it's definitely in full swing. OTAs have started, and we're starting to see a little bit of what Schottenheimer is playing for 2025 Cowboys. So we're definitely excited. Thank you for you guys' time. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
See ya.